Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Let's quickly watch this clip and we'll come back and talk about it.
The reason I asked my ex-husband if I could be a stay-at-home wife is because I was lazy, incompetent, and did not want to change. I did not want to pursue any of my dreams or passions because they all sounded too hard. I did not want to be responsible for the bills. I did not want to be responsible for anything more difficult than the extremely simple tasks of cooking and cleaning. And I'm not devaluing that labor, but it is extremely simple and took me probably about 2 hours max some days. Simply wanted him to bear the burden of being an adult so I did not have to. And I suspect for the vast majority of people who want to be stay-at-home wives, stay-at-home girlfriends, I'm not talking about stay-at-home mothers, that's a separate topic. I think their motivations are simply that they do not want to become competent adults within their own right. They just want to be taken care of and babied forever. I went straight from my parents' household directly into marriage. I'm a youngest child, I'm the baby of the family. And to be quite frank, I just expected that I would never have to grow up. I say, filming from my childhood bedroom that I had to move back into after the divorce. Now that I'm no longer subscribing to the idea that laziness and doing nothing and never pursuing any of the things you want to pursue is a life worth living, that becoming a competent adult is actually very important to me and I'm working very hard at it. I won't be in this room forever, trust. I think your motivation to want to be a stay-at-home wife is because you want to be girl Peter Pan. I think that is a foolish, bum, loser way to behave. As a foolish, bum, loser.
The reason so many women are drawn to becoming trad wives is because they don't want to take responsibility for their own freedom. And as someone who's taught college feminist philosophy for many years, I can see this reflected in Simone de Beauvoir's theory, where she explains that freedom is something that causes immense anxiety for people. Now, people usually think of freedom as a good thing, and it is a good thing, but it's not an easy thing. And this is Simone de Beauvoir's point. And I see this reflected in this video.
The reason I asked my ex-husband if I could be a stay-at-home wife.
And what this woman is saying about why she wanted to be a trad wife makes so much sense to me, because Beauvoir says something really similar to, which is that becoming an adult requires a level of responsibility in taking account of oneself that is very uncomfortable. And within the system of patriarchy, women don't actually have to do that because they can stay within what Beauvoir calls a more childlike state, where they are not afforded agency, but they will be taken care of by a man. At least this is what patriarchy promises, that the man is the one who gets to go out and do the work and make the money, whereas the woman stays home and does the housework. For Beauvoir, freedom is inherently uncomfortable because it means that you are suddenly responsible for every choice that you make in the world. And I think this is magnified today, where we're seeing increasing economic anxieties and financial precarity for so many young people. And so it doesn't surprise me that there are so many young women who are more interested in having a man take care of their needs rather than having to worry about it themselves. But ultimately, this leads to a state of stunted self-development where a person stays within a kind of infantile stage, according to Beauvoir. They never reach their true potential because they're too nervous and scared to take it up for themselves. In other words, they take the easy way out. Freedom isn't easy, but denying it is.
Our generation is infantilizing adults.
Oh goody, the teenage trad wife who's never had to survive a day on her own and can't pronounce the word infantilizing properly is going to explain to everyone why she's actually an adult. And all these teenagers who go out into the world on their own and have to survive alone are the children.
I am 19 years old. I got married a week after I turned 18. I had my baby on my 19th birthday. When I first started making TikTok content, and even now, one of the most common things is I'm a child raising a child. Me and my husband are just kids playing house. The age of adulthood starts at 18 for a reason. Some people say you're not an adult until you're 25. What? How are you saying?
Thank you for sending me this one, Women's Sphere. Good Lord. For starters, the fact that you don't understand brain development and the concept of it wrapping up around 25, and that's why people say that, but you're still lecturing everyone like you're smarter than them, is exactly why you are a child raising a child, because you are. If you had gone to college like the rest of your peers that you're constantly talking down on, thinking you're better than, maybe you would have learned that, but instead you're sitting at home playing house. You intentionally got married the literal second you turned 18 so that you could just move straight from your parents' house into your husband's house, and made him your new parent so that you could avoid having to learn how to live on your own like an actual adult. I watched your day in a life video. Now you don't have to go to work. You don't have to get a job. You don't have to figure out how to pay bills. You can sit around your house and put on cutesy little dresses and do your hair and makeup and take care of your babies. The same stuff I was pretending to do when I was 7 years old. It is one way of trying to protect yourselves from ever having to face the harsh realities of the real world, but it often will come back to bite you in the butt statistically later. And I would be remiss if I didn't point out the hypocrisy of you claiming that all these women are infantilizing themselves and pointing out the fact that you're wearing nothing but milkmaid and sort of like Little House on the Prairie dresses. I know we've talked about the diverse history of baby doll dresses here on my page before, but I think we all can understand the nuance of when women are just wearing them because they're wearing them, or wearing them because it has been weaponized by the manosphere to infantilize women. And it is very obvious in which way she's intentionally wearing these. So once again, as always, I'll take what is projection for $1 billion.
Now, I remember one of my posts was about the women that have babies just for attention, for the congratulations, for them to feel important and all. And that's why they keep having babies year after year after year. I think this can also be related to that, because I think this is also within that umbrella. They're all in the same umbrella. I've always been of the opinion that most women want to have the easy way out of life. Apart from the fact that most women have bought into that infantilization that society has pushed on women. Infantilization in the sense that men praise our childlike characteristics. Oh, she's so soft. Oh, she's so soft-spoken. Oh, she looks like a baby. She's so naive. She's so innocent. She's a virgin. She's so young. She's young and pretty. She's slender and all of that. She's soft-spoken. She has a baby voice. These are what I mean when I talk about infantilization of women. Also, basically, over the years, our softness and our childish infant traits have been praised and have been encouraged by society. So at the same time, so many women find it difficult to grow out of that stage and know that at some point in your life, you have to be an adult. You have to take charge of your life. At some point, you have to be responsible for your own life. You have to be an adult. So I feel like so many women find it hard to break off from that part of them. So they find the easy way out, which is, of course, being with a man as we are taught. Be feminine, be with a man, be soft, and let a man take care of you while you just be a baby, while you just stay at home. But it never works out. Here's the thing. It never, ever works out the way it's been taught, because at some point the fantasy wears off, because there's no man in this world that would treat a woman the way she deserves to be treated if you're totally dependent on him, if your survival depends on him, if he sees a person that cannot take care of themselves, you have no skill, you're totally dependent on him. We've heard stories. The tables always turn at some point. So it's not a realist, it's just a fantasy, it's just some fantasy that is not real, because it never ends well. So I think so many women have not broken out of this delusion and are still living in Delulu land. They're trying to escape the reality of life, being that you have to, at some point, face life head on. You have to experience life for yourself. You have to build something for yourself. You have to have something you're chasing. You have to have goals. You have to have something that you've, achieved for yourself. And nobody is going to do that for you. Nobody's going to do that for you. The truth is, you cannot totally be dependent on a person, on a man, and expect that you're going to live your, fantasy life. You're going to live your baby girl life without no consequence. There's always a price to pay, and the price is usually heavy. There has to be something you're sacrificing. There's no, I've seen so many stay-at-home wives that would come and brag about how their husband takes care of them. He does everything for them, but they never talk about the disrespect that they have to put up with. They never talk about how every cash and everything in the house is accounted for. All your spendings are accounted for. They don't talk about how much they beg and kneel and beg before he gives them money for maybe a little leisure. So they never talk about the disrespect. They never talk about the times where they cry, where their husbands tell them no. So let's be truthful. The trad wife, the stay-at-home wife, nothing to fall back on, totally dependent on a man. No matter how they try to romanticize it, no matter how they try to sell it as a perfect lifestyle, an enjoyable lifestyle, living in your soft girl era, we can see through it at the end of the day, and we know what these women pass through on a daily basis, the disrespect they take on a daily basis, the service they render to these men. What I've come to realize in this life is you're never free if you actually are not in charge of your life in some sort of way. If you don't have anything to fall back to as your own. It is what it is.
Women are absolutely put themselves in certain situations that would make them feel uncomfortable. A lot of women keep using finances, logistics, they keep using that as a cop-out. Okay, back in like the 1960s and 1950s, you could use that as an excuse. We are in the year 2026. You've been able to have the freedom to make your own money, to buy a home, to make informed decisions, and to practice full agency over yourself as a woman. Choosing to do anything less than that is choosing to stay as an infant. It's choosing to stay as a child. It's choosing to look around and rely on your parents to make sure that the plug outlets are covered. That way you don't have to assume any responsibility for making any mistakes. Women are absolutely terrified of being adults. Women are absolutely terrified of making adult decisions. They much rather have someone be able to make adult decisions for them. But the thing about it is that what they don't realize is that you're going to have an expiration date on that. At some point, the person that you've chosen to be responsible for you is going to choose to not be responsible for you anymore. There were so many women in the comments. I like my life. I'm disabled. I don't have to worry about anything. And what they don't realize is that you like the life that you're living just as long as it is going the way that it is going now. If that man were to decide to divorce you and not leave you with anything, you would not like the life that you're living. And that is very much a possibility. Liking 95% of your life, you're never going to like 95% of your life so much that you will hate the 5% of what you have to deal with if it all crumbles down. And that is what your life and your stability is going to be dependent upon. It is going to be dependent upon that man wanting to stay with you. It's going to be dependent upon that man choosing you and you choosing to tolerate things that come along with dealing with this man. If he decides to put his hands on you, if he decides to have a baby with another person, if he decides to repeatedly cheat on you, if he ends up giving you an incurable STD, that life that you love living right now is dependent upon so many things, and you have no safety net that you can fall back on just in case these things happen. Women refuse to want to actually grow up and just become adults and understand how to build their emotional resilience. Very few women have any emotional resilience. Most women want to live lives avoiding things. Most women want to live lives ducking and dodging every type of situation instead of realizing that there's no such thing. You're not going to get through life not having any negative experience. That's the whole purpose of you building emotional resilience. You build up emotional resilience to the point where you could say, I don't have control over everything, but I do have control over how I respond to certain type of situations. I am equipped with all the tools that I need to be able to overcome anything negative that may happen to me. No one wants to be a prisoner more than someone that already is free. And nobody wants to be free more than a prisoner. You're going to have to pick your poison at some point. But you're going to, at one point, you're going to be a prisoner and you're going to be free. And in most cases, most people much rather have their freedom over being a prisoner.
What's your dream job? I want to be a stay-at-home wife, okay? But not in a conservative trad wife way, in a liberal way. Sue me! The corporate ladder is not my vibe. Not my vibe. I want to make sourdough, again, in a liberal way. Liberal sourdough. I want to make liberal sourdough. God, is that too much to ask?
Welcome to today's lesson. The truth about the trad wife trend. You've probably seen women baking sourdough, milking cows, and wearing linen dresses while they have their 8 children beautifully gathered around them. This is all under the banner of being a trad wife. But here's the thing. According to this new research, this isn't about longing to go back to the 1950s. It's not about nostalgia. It's about burnout. Researchers found that women aren't turning towards traditional gender roles. They're turning away from the grind They're exhausted. They're tired of having to do it all without any support. They're done raising the kids, working full time, doing all the laundry. The trad wife fantasy, the soft life, less about submission and more about escapism. And here's the thing, the majority of women, the majority of moms, 74% of them, they work. They don't have the luxury to not. When women feel like they have to retreat to survive, that's not a lifestyle trend. That's a warning signal. We need to build a world where work and home are not at war with one another, where moms actually have choices.
I agree with what the last lady said, because I believe that none of us are escaping life without learning the lessons that we came into this life to learn. Everyone is on their separate journeys in life and learning their different lessons. I believe that's 100%. Every mistake you've ever done, you've learned from it and you've gotten better. Every win that you've gotten, I mean, it was a journey that taught you something. You achieved something and, you felt like a human being. You felt fulfilled. That's what life is about. We lose some and we win some. As we go through life, we get to experience a lot of things. We get to learn lessons. We get to live life, basically, and we become better humans. Anyone that's trying to escape the lessons and the journey of life and trying to take the short way out, what I've come to learn from my own personal experiences, it's definitely, it's going to go somewhere and wait for you. Life is just like a university. Any lesson that you leave out, eventually it's going to wait for you somewhere. And if you've not learned it, you keep on making the same mistake and the same mistake until you learn from it. Yeah. There's no escaping life. There's no escaping the lessons of life. If you've not learned to trust yourself, be dependent on yourself to a large extent, life is going to teach you survival, and it might teach you in a very hard way. Maybe in the later days of your life, maybe when people your age have already experienced that, have, done the work and have learned their lessons, they've evolved and become better persons, or have found their way around life or something. Maybe that's when your own journey would start, because you tried to escape and take the easy way out, the easy route out, right? Well, some people may say, yeah, it works for some people. Good for them. But from what I've seen, from people's experiences and my personal experience, it might not be like my personal experience is not being a child wife. I've never been a child wife, but I'm saying generally in life, this is how life works. You have to be responsible for your life at some point. At the end of the day, you cannot be totally dependent on another person for the rest of your life. Even our parents, no matter how your parents are there for you as an individual, at some point you're definitely going to face life head on. You're definitely going to live life and learn your lessons as an individual. There's no escaping in this world. Like somehow that's how the creator structured the world. After uni, a lot of my classmates, they just, got into marriage immediately. I saw a lot of, even when I was still in school, there were lots of my coursemates that quickly got married, so that they could have someone to fall back on after school, so they don't have to go into the work market and start the hassle of getting a job, working and all of that. So for so many women, the easy way for them was to get a husband, that would provide for you. You become a trad wife and he provides, you have kids, and somehow in their heads, they've escaped the work market. I'm not actually saying the ones that it works for, because most of them turned out to be, traditional wives that were just, all they got was maybe they became managers of their husband's supermarket, like grocery store. He probably opened a grocery store that they are managing in his name, of course. Some of them, they don't even pay them salaries from the grocery store. All most of them get at the end of the day is just money to cook, money to go to the markets, get food, cook for the household and all of that. No personal income, no payment. You're just working for your husband. He just brought you into his world and you're serving him totally with no pay. So we need to start telling the younger generation the truth. There's no escaping life. You have to be in charge of your life at some point. If you want to use a man to level up, it's different. But know that you're using him to level up. It's still you. You still fall back to yourself. you're trying to build something for yourself, not necessarily trying to get married into wealth or trying to get married for survival, for escapism. So you don't have to work, so you don't have to get a job, so you don't have to get a business, so you don't have to think about life on your own. So someone just takes up the labor of life and all of that while you just, enjoy. Like, it never works out. It never works out. You're going to pay dearly with your mental health. You cannot be a child forever. You cannot escape the game of life. Everybody at some point, you just have to play it. And you have to know that your husband's money is not your money. Marrying a rich man does not make you a rich woman.
Where are they hiding the 47-year-old trad wives? That's what I want to know. That's what I think about every time I see one of these videos from like a 19 or 20-year-old talking about having no job and no degree and she loves it and it's amazing. Where are the trad wives that are my age, that are 47, that are 50? Why are they not out there espousing how amazing this lifestyle is? I think we know. I think other women my age probably know, because we have been on this earth long enough to see what happens when you tie yourself for life to an ultra-conservative, ultra-misogynist movement. It does not end well. You end up destitute and divorced because you had no financial security, you had no job history, or you end up with a life that is not particularly appealing to young women on Instagram and TikTok and Pinterest. And I realize that sounds mean, and maybe it is mean, but I'm just trying to be realistic here. Like, there is a reason that conservatives are asking 19 and 20-year-olds to recruit other young women. They know if they put a video out with like the average middle-aged trad wife and showed what her life looks like day to day, what she gave up her rights for, what she gave up her freedom for, I do not think that most young women in this country would be so eager to sign up.
Trad wife content is equally as dangerous as red pill content. Let me explain. Trad wives depend on men for the things that they receive in life. They're stay-at-home moms, but somebody has to pay those bills, right? With the next generation of girls being fed content where they are being told to depend on men to get the things that they want out of life, it is incredibly dangerous. Because the next generation of men have been fed content where they are being taught to abuse women financially, physically, and emotionally. And truthfully, white women stopped wanting to be trad wives for a reason. It's dangerous to promote an idea that looks good externally but doesn't feel good internally. Historically, trad wives have been overworked and undervalued. It saddens me that the next generation of young girls is being taught to yearn for a traditional life without being taught the history behind why traditional lives don't actually benefit them.
The reality is, if you make yourself a trad wife, a stay-at-home girlfriend, a stay-at-home wife for a man in this generation, you're not going to be able to buy all the cute shit on your Pinterest. You're actually not going to be able to buy all the stuff on your Amazon wish list. And maybe he'll buy you these things, but then he's not going to have enough money to give you your own IRA, to give you a lump sum savings account just in case something happens and you have to leave him and you have to be independent on your own. You're going to have to choose between financial security and him buying you trinkets. And if you have kids, you're not going to have to choose at all. You're not going to have a choice. That money's going to go to the kids and you're going to be the one raising them and you're going to be doing free labor.
Kindly leave your comments and what y'all think down below in the comment section. But yeah, ladies, you heard it all. Like, it's never safe. It's not safe. Like, this is the reason why we have a lot of women in their 40s, in their 50s, that are divorced and are poor, have nothing, have no achievement, that cannot even apply for a job. No one wants to employ them because of course they had no work experience. Who would want to employ someone with no work experience at that age when there are young people everywhere just fresh out of university with sharp minds? So at the end of the day, you're left with nothing, no safety net, nothing. All because someone somewhere convinced you that you're going to live a soft life by depending on a man, that being a trad wife is magnificent, is feminine, is beautiful, is what God has ordained for you, is what God wants for you, or whatever reason why some of these women choose to become trad wives. So, like, it never works out well. It never works out well. I've seen stories and I'm exhausted. So, the influencers that market this trad wife lifestyle online, hope you know, they make money off social media. So they are not entirely jobless. They are not entirely totally dependent on their husbands. So these are propaganda and lies that it feeds to the public. So don't fall for it, ladies. Like, if you're a young woman watching this, don't fall for these lies. Like, let's be wise out there. Let's not fall for this mediocre lifestyle that has nothing good in return to give to you. And on that note, we've come to the end of this video. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the channel in case you're not subscribed. And thank you all for watching. And I'll see you definitely in my next video. Have a blessed day. Bye.